Win big in 2023 with Team Sync from RotoBaller. Import your fantasy teams and sync your leagues. Get customized tools and tailored advice for your specific rosters and scoring settings, including live recommendations from the Live Draft Assistant, Free Agent Finder, and Lineup Optimizer. Sync an unlimited amount of NFL, MLB, NBA, and NHL fantasy teams from all of the major fantasy platforms. Fantasy football drafts just kicked off, but hey, we got fantasy basketball and fantasy hockey kicking off in about a month. Get a discount for any premium pass using my promo code Knuckler, K-N-U-C-K-L-E-R, as in one who throws knuckleballs like R.A. Dickey. Just visit rotoballer.com/radio and start rotoballing like a boss. Makes a great birthday or Christmas present, a graduation gift for that rotoballer in your life. And folks, if you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or have your U.S. dollars converted to francs, and we'll get to that in a second. Welcome to episode 108 of RotoBaller's official MMA podcast. Tap that, and you're going to want francs because we got UFC Paris this weekend. This card is kicking off at noon. That means I will be doing the RotoBaller MMA weekly DFS/sports betting Q&A in the RotoBaller MMA Discord in the morning, Saturday morning, hopefully from 10 to 11. I will be attending the Eastern Kentucky versus Cincinnati football game that day. For my picks on things like Bellator, PFL, LFA, Cage Warriors, major boxing events, One and Ryzen, Invicta, and more. Follow me on Twitter at RotoBrady. Follow the podcast at Tap That MMA Podcast. Like, subscribe, leave positive comments. That's at the Facebook page and on YouTube and Spotify. Check out all my interlude episodes we got coming out. You know, I talk to a lot of people in the MMA world, but I'm talking to a lot of Eastern Kentucky University athletes as well. You know, I'm big into that program through Professor Jim Blair. And yeah, last weekend was another, solid fight night. It was all fun to watch. Started super early in the morning, as it was in Singapore. We saw the, the send-off of the Korean Zombie. And just a fun event. It got, kicking off super early in the morning. For those people that were up and watching, it was fun, to have an event like that at weird hours and to enjoy coffee and breakfast sandwiches with your UFC viewing. My God, this week we have college football on from Thursday to Monday. All sorts of exciting stuff happening. But MMA-wise, it's kind of bare this weekend. There's the UFC, there's LFA. And then we just, have the Contender Series next to look forward to. There's not going to be PFL or Road to UFC action for a little bit. This weekend, UFC Paris. We got a lot of French people on this card, and we have 11 fights, starting with a 140-pound catchweight fight between Zara Faern and Jacqueline Cavalcanti. A bantamweight fight between Farid Basharat, 10-0, still against Cledson Rodriguez. A bantamweight fight between Nora Cornole and Jocelyn Edwards. A welterweight matchup between Angel Lusa and Reese McKee. Bantamweight Taylor Lapilas against Caroline Lufren, 8-0 out of Ireland. Featherweight Morgan Charrier, I'm assuming that's how it's said based on the flag that represents the country he's from, and Manolo Zacchini, who is from Italy. You might be able to guess from the twinge I put on that. Featherweight Frenchman William Gomis against fellow Frenchman 12-1 Yanni Goumari. Light heavyweight Volkan Ozdemir against Bogdan Guskov, 14-2. Light heavyweight number 5, currently ranked in Russia, but that's not the country that he hails from. Lightweight Benoit Saint-Denis, BSD, against Thiago Moises. That's number 25 and number 18 in the world, respectively, at lightweight, according to Tapology. At the co-main event, Manon Fiorot at flyweight, taking on Thug Rose Namajunas. In Rose is coming up to flyweight. taking on someone who is, almost exclusively looked like a killer in Furio. And then in the main event, Cyril Gane, who, as I saw on the internet today, has never lost in, I think it was either France or Paris or both. 11-2 against Sergey Spivak, 16-3. That is the number 5 and the number 8 heavyweights in the world, according to Tapology. And by the way, the co-main event is number 4 versus the number 4 strawweight in the world currently. Oh, boy. Let's get into it. We're starting with Zara Fayern and Jacqueline Cavalcanti. Let's start with Fayern. Loser of 3 in a row. All 3 in the UFC. Most recent, January of 2023. She got finished in the first round both by Megan Anderson and Felicia Spencer. No shame in that, really, at featherweight. They were set up to come in and, be title contenders at featherweight at the time. She had about a 3-year hiatus in between her next fight against Josiane Nunes. She outstruck her 117-102, but lost by unanimous decision. Cavalcanti, on the other hand, 5-1 as a professional, 26 years old, 3 wins by knockout, 2 by decision, is on a 3-fight winning streak. Her only loss is by split decision, 2022 to Martina Jindrova in PFL Challenger Series. Those 3 in a row came in UAE Warriors, SCC, and in LFA against 4-1 Melissa Croden by unanimous decision April of this year. On the odds, Fayern is the plus 300 underdog. Jacqueline Cavalcanti, the minus 380 favorite. Why? I just don't see a lot there to that's crazy, honestly. Like, Fayern kind of got, had a rough, that's 3 tough opponents to fight in the UFC. Even though the first 2 came years ago. I don't know. Can you really say for a fighter like Fayern that landed 117 strikes against Nunes the last time out, not the same Nunes at featherweight, but a solid one nonetheless. I don't know. I think she could. Fayern, really, you can't judge her by. It's such a different level of competition she's faced. When you look at the opponents that Cavalcanti has fought at this point, and the ones that Fayern had to fight to start off in the UFC, I don't think this is that crazy. Cavalcanti is way younger, 14 years younger. But at least for right now, I am actually willing to say that Fayern could win this fight 35, 40 times out of 100. Give me plus 300 all day. Hit it. Ow! And I'm gonna leave it at that. And I don't think you even pick a prop. I think if you go Cavalcanti, because I think that's the only one you pick a prop for. Fayern is 6-5 as a pro. 3 of the fights that she's had to fight are against very high level women's featherweights. I think you go Cavalcanti by decision just because it is her UFC debut. That is plus 150. I think that's a pretty solid value. Next up, we got Farid Basharat 10-0 against Cledson Rodriguez. Basharat the minus 380 favorite. Rodriguez the plus 300 underdog. Almost identical. I think it was actually. Yeah, identical odds to the first fight. Let's start with Cledson Rodriguez then. Winner of 2 of his last 3. Damn. A win in the Contender Series by unanimous decision where he outstruck Santo Curatolo 91-21. He did get taken down twice. He lost by split decision in a really close fight with CJ Vergara in May of 2022 and then got a first-round knockout his last fight February of this year against Shannon Ross. Farid Basharat will have a 4-inch reach advantage. He is 2 years younger. Winner of 2 fights in the UFC, both by unanimous decision. He outstruck Alan Begoso in the Contenders Series 116-27 and got 3 takedowns. He then got 3 takedowns too against Damon Blackshear, outstriking him 58-46. Look, Cledson with the Contender Series win, a knockout his last time out, but against the likes of Shannon Ross, who is a 3-time loser, 0-time winner in the UFC. I respect the fact that he had a close fight with CJ Vergara, for sure. But what Farid Basharat was able to do against Damon Blackshear, Blackshear is a dangerous opponent. He's crafty. He's someone that, probably 75% of the division absolutely has to bring their A game against or they could get caught. And he's landed 3 takedowns and at least, 58 to 116 strikes in his first 2 fights. But he has yet to put an opponent away. So I do think Farid Basharat wins this fight probably like 85 times out of 100. I just think that's the way we're trending. And I think he does it by decision the overwhelming majority of the time. Basharat by decision minus 115. Hit it!
Ow! Break out the red panties.
That's how I feel about that pick. Farid Basharat, I'd like to see him finish more, obviously. That's going to affect his status as a prospect. But him and his brother keep winning for the most part. Overall, they've had... is that even his brother? There's no way that two... I'm very sure. But yeah, of course, Farid and Javid Basharat are brothers. Anyway, next fight, we have a bantamweight matchup between Nora Cornole and Jocelyn Edwards. Let's start with Nora, 6-1 as a professional, 33 years old. 5 knockouts in her career, 1 submission, all wins inside the distance. And, 3 of her last 4 professional fights have come in the UAE realm. Her 2 best opponents have a combined record of 16-12. So not awesome. And the last 4 wins that she's had have all been by, pretty much TKO knockout. None going further than the second round. So there is that. And Jocelyn Edwards, the minus 118 slight favorite, nor the minus 102 underdog. Jocelyn, winner of 3 in a row. It's unbelievable, man. Jocelyn is a fighter who is, you hear me talk about it all the time. Their skill set, it gives them a chance in almost every fight. You've seen them end up close or even winning in fights that they shouldn't have gotten necessarily. But Jocelyn has a skill set that just makes things close. It's the volume striking, keeping, your opponents to a certain number. And it's evidenced by the fact that all of her fights have gone to the judges' scorecard. She's only lost by decision. She got taken down 5 times, at 9 combined times by Carol Rosa and Jessica Rose Clark, the only 2 fighters to beat her. Those 3 wins in a row since June of 2022 have come over Ramona Pascual. Then 2 straight split decisions against Yi Jeong Kim and Lucy Pudilova. That last one coming April of 2023. Look, I think that at least Nora gives you a clear method of victory. I think if you're going Nora at the slight underdog, and I think that that's kind of crazy, for considering what Nora hasn't proven, considering how many wins in a row, regardless of how they came, that Jocelyn Edwards has. But if you're going Cornole, you go by TKO knockout plus 350. Having said that, this is not a 50-50 fight. I have to give this to Jocelyn Edwards 65 times out of 70 just off the results of her last 3 fights. For the last 3, so she landed 56 strikes, got taken down twice against Lucy Pudilova, still ended up winning on the judges' scorecards, but she landed a combined 265 strikes against Kim and Pascual. So I have to give that edge to Jocelyn, to La Pantera. So 65, 70 fights out of 100, I think, go to Edwards. Minus 118, you smack it.
Ow!
And Edwards, based on the result of every single one of her UFC fights, I think she wins this by decision. Plus 150?
Break out the red panties.
Enough said. Let's move on to Angel Lusa and Reese McKee. That is a welterweight matchup. Let's start with McKee because McKee is the plus 140 underdog while Lusa is the minus 166 favorite. McKee, the loser of 2 in a row in the UFC, is only 2. His last fight somehow came back in November of 2020. I cannot believe it has been almost 3 years since we have seen Reese McKee fight. I wish I had a sound drop for that. Oh, I do. Very mysterious, but guess what? So he got knocked out in the first round of his UFC debut, July of 2020, by a guy who did not let him land a strike. Shut him out 40 strikes to nothing with a takedown and a submission attempt, ultimately finishing him by knockout. That guy's name was Khamzat Chimaev. Then, just a few months later, he gets outstruck 176 to 124 and taken down 3 times by a dude named Alex Morono. That is a really tough first 2 fights in the UFC. Damn! Lusa 2 years older, he will be at a 4-inch reach disadvantage. The last ninja to Reese McKee. Now, his Contender Series fight was against Jack Della Maddalena. And he still landed 64 strikes to JDM's 108. He's only had fights end by unanimous decision in his time in the UFC. He lost one to Munir Lazez, who outstruck him 141 to 88. Lusa has the volume, but the guys that have beat him have had more of it and more meaningful. But Lusa got a win his last time out, but that was back in August of 2022. Where he beat AJ Fletcher by unanimous decision, outstriking him 129 to 87 with 2 takedowns in that time. Reese McKee, though, did he have a fight? Yeah, he had 3 fights in the time since he last lost to Alex Morono. 3 straight TKO knockouts. He, won the vacant welterweight Cage Warriors title. So, and against solid opponents too. I mean, his opponents' combined record the last 2 fights was 39-12. It's like I think that McKee has gotten himself right. The real question is like, how's this going to turn? Who's going to win the volume war here? Lazez, Reese McKee really did like a good job. And AJ Fletcher has done a lot of losing, in his time. It's just like that win doesn't mean as much to me as I think I'm being led to believe that it should here. I don't know. I think this really might be like a 50-50 fight. I think McKee might have gotten things right, and I think that it's really, you can judge him with 3 straight wins, being young at 27, having a long reach advantage on Lusa and winning 3 straight fights at the high level of Cage Warriors, winning a belt there. I think the volume that his range will allow him to get off on Lusa, I think, and again, it's just so hard to judge McKee on his first 2 losses in the UFC to such high-quality, tough-to-beat opponents. Obviously Morono isn't of that same, level as Hamza, but McKee was able to land 120-plus strikes on Alex Morono.
But I'm not impressed by your performance, and I look forward to...
There is no way I meant to play that one.
One comment, man. One comment.
No, don't be scared, homie.
Don't be scared, Reese McKee. This is a 50-50 fight, in fact. So at plus 140, I love it. Hit it. And, I think that Reese McKee does it by decision. I think just out-voluming on Helusa. I think it goes a little bit... I think it goes kind of similar to the Lazez fight statistically. So... McKee at plus 140, hammer it home. McKee by decision plus 350. Show me the money. Watched Jerry Maguire last week. So that line's been running through my head. Next up, we got Taylor Lapilas against Kaulan Lafran at bantamweight. Lafran, the plus 145 underdog. Lapilas, the minus 175 favorite. Lapilas is a Frenchman. 18-3, ranked as the number 3 bantamweight in Western Europe. Let's start with Lafran. 8-0 as a professional, 27 years old, out of Tyrone, Ireland. I didn't know people fought out of anywhere but Dublin, Ireland, but they do. 5 wins by knockout, 2 by submission, 1 win by decision, and it came back July of 2021. He's got good amateur experience, too. He's in, his last 4 fights were with Cage Warriors. He was he won the vacant bantamweight championship for Cage Warriors. While there, that means a lot. His last 4 wins have come by TKO knockout. Lapilas, 31 years old, 73-inch reach. Ranked as the number 1 professional active pro bantamweight in Canada. So, wait a second here. He is fighting out of Paris, France. It says he's French. His nickname is Double Impact. That's sweet. But he also seems to double up here in Canada. 4 wins by knockout, 6 by submission, and 8 by decision. He's on a 5-fight winning streak, did some fighting there in TKO eras as well. He was their bantamweight champion. His most recent fight was April of 2022. You know what? Look, the French are probably going to do well on this card, but on a fight-by-fight basis, I don't see any reason. Now, okay, if I have to give one reason, it's that, I mean, look at Lapalus. He's got wins over Nate Maness and Wilson Race. But Lafron, 27, they're of similar age. He's been beating quality opponents in Cage Warriors. And, 3 fights more recently than Lapalus has had his last fight. Lafron wins this fight 45 times to 50 out of 100.
Nick, one comment, man. One comment.
No, don't be scared, homie. Come on.
Plus 145, hit it. And how does Lafron do it? I think he does it by TKO knockout, is what I think. All of Lapalus's losses have been by decision. I'm mindful of that, so maybe don't pick a prop here. Maybe just go by Lafron to win straight up. And they don't even have the odds out yet, weirdly, the prop odds for that fight. So, what are you going to do? I think that's a sign to just go Lafron to be the straight-up victor. You know what I'm saying? Next up, we got a featherweight fight between Morgan Charrier and Manolo Zacchini. Zacchini, the plus 270 underdog. Charrier, the minus 340 favorite. Let us start then with the Frenchman. The last pirate, unless it's pronounced Pirate, I think it's probably pirate. 18-9-1, 27 years old, ranked as the number 3 active UK/Ireland pro featherweight according to Tapology.com. He's also ranked at lightweight. 10 wins by knockout, 3 by submission, 5 wins by decision, but all 8 of 9 losses are by decision. His last 3 fights were all wins. They came in Cage Warriors. You love to see that. He was not a champion there, but what you're going to do is the combined record of his last 2 opponents, Diego Silva and Pedro Sousa, 33-12. His last 2 wins were by TKO knockout. His losses were in Cage Warriors too, and one was for the interim featherweight championship of that organization. The other one was also a championship match. This guy's had plenty of losses in his career, sure. But, high quality wins, and he's done winning of late. He's got 2 MMA wins already in the year 2023. That 3rd fight ago was just in November of 2022. Manolo Zacchini, Angelo Veneziano is his nickname, strangely. 26 years old, the number 3 ranked Italian pro featherweight, 9 wins by knockout, 1 by submission, and 1 by decision. This guy's most recent fight, it was a win, October of 2022, 2 wins in a row, the second dating back to May of 2022. That was also a first-round knockout. Been in Venator FC. I think that's an Italian promotion, if I had to guess. Yes, it is. That makes plenty of sense. And losses to lesser quality of opponents, sure. And he's got less experience at Cage Warriors. This is one fight where I think that the Frenchman is appropriately favored. Zacchini, I wish that he had more of a chance here because I would like to see some Italy versus France action. I'd love to see some more, Italian high-level MMA fighters to join Marvin Vettori, for sure. Not in this fight, though. Charrier, rightfully favored at minus 340. I think he wins this fight 85 to 90 times out of 100. I think minus 340 is a steal. Zacchini.
Don't do this. You cannot do this,
This is a rough matchup, and I think that if you're going Charrier, you want to make it worth it. I think you go by TKO knockout. Zacchini has been finished before at least once on the feet. I think that Charrier is going to be able to do that to him. So, Charrier by TKO knockout plus 120. That's a bargain. Hit it. Ow! Next up. Hold on. What is next up? It's a featherweight fight between Frenchman William Gomis and Frenchman Yanni Gemori. Featherweight. Gomis, the minus 218 favorite. Yanni, the plus 180 underdog. I feel like, so Gomis was supposed to fight Lucas Almeida before Almeida got hurt. There was supposed to be a bunch of different fights on this card before different people got hurt. There's supposed to be Sam Patterson versus Nasrat Haqparast. Taylor Lapilas was supposed to fight Muin Gafarov. Gemari was supposed to fight Lufrit. Both fighters got rebooked. Volkan was supposed to fight Azamat Murzakanov, and Zarif was supposed to fight Haley Cowan. My lord, the shuffling around. Gomis. Let's actually start with Yanni. 12-1 as a professional, nicknamed the Desert Warrior, 28 years old. Fighting out of Lyon, France. 3 wins by knockout in his career, 4 by submission, 5 by decision, 1 and only loss by submission. That came all the way back May of 2015. Spent a lot of time in, UAE, Brave, Lion, and Sparta fight. He was not a champion in Brave, but his last 3 wins were there. His last 2 wins were by knockout, the most recent coming in June of 2023 against 10-5 Memos Rasa. Gomis, on the other hand, was cutting his teeth in the UFC. He has a 4-inch reach advantage. He is 2 years younger. 2 wins in the UFC, both by decision. He beat Jarno Arens, who we just saw pick up a win this past week. I want to confirm that. I think that's what I said. No, he lost to Sungwon Choi in what was a close fight. But he looked decent, because Choi looked good. And Gomis landed 32 strikes to Jarno Arens' 20 and got 3 takedowns September of 2022 on the Gan vs. Tuivasa Fight Night card. That was a unanimous decision. Then his last time out gets a win over Francis Marshall by split decision, outstriking him 27-15. Still getting the decision despite getting taken down twice. I think this is appropriately handicapped as well. I even think that this is so fair and even so maybe a little bit favorable to Gomis, or not giving Gomis enough credit. I think minus 218 is a pretty nice, option to hold a parlay together. I think Gomis wins this fight 75 to 80 times out of 100, and I think the track record for him right here says that he does that by decision. We don't have the odds for that yet for some reason, but I would say that Gomis by decision is your best value there. It's weird. It's hard to identify too many awesome DFS options. I think Farid Basharat's going to be a decent option if he's not too high priced. I think Lufrin and McKee could end up being, good guys to use, especially McKee with the volume he might have. Yazelin, if she's priced well enough, I think is fair. Gomis, I'm not touching. And then we're going to get into, the people who are definitely going to be higher priced. But that's how I feel about that fight. Next up, and we only have 4 fights to go, by the way. Volkan Oezdemir, light heavyweight against Bogdan Guskov. Bogdan, the plus 160 underdog. Volkan, the minus 192 favorite. Let's talk first about Bogdan Guskov. 14-2 as a professional, 30 years old. Fighting out of Russia, but he was born in Uzbekistan. That's what that flag is. Straight up, Bogdan looks so much like the Uzbekistani Anthony Smith. It's crazy. 14-2. He is the number 1 ranked Asia Central Pro light heavyweight in the world right now, according to Tapology.com. Number 91 overall at light heavyweight in the world, according to Tapology. 12 career wins by knockout, 1 loss by knockout, 2 wins by submission, 0 wins by decision, but 1 loss. He has won 4 in a row. He fought Murdoch Professional League. Love to see that. His last loss since August of 2016 was to Vyacheslav Vasilevsky by first round knockout December of 2020 in AMC Fight Nights, but 4 in a row since then. His last win being in March of this year by first round knockout over Carlos Eduardo. He got 4 straight first round knockouts for his 4-fight winning streak. I just question the quality at which those wins came out. I mean, good combined records of the opponents he's fought in that time, especially the last 3, 7-2-1, 4-1, and 20-10, I just do question the quality of the organization, even Murdoch Professional League, because that was his fight that was longest to go on this winning streak. And especially when you're talking about fighting Volkan, no time, Ozdemir, 18-7, 33 years old, a 75-inch reach. He is currently ranked as the number 11 best light heavyweight in the world, according to Tapology.com.
Don't do this. You cannot do this, you know?
Poor Guskov. And still, even to that credit to Guskov, I will say.
Nick, one comment, man. One comment.
No, don't be scared, homie.
Now, maybe honestly, he should be scared. Look, Guskov has not performed or competed at this level. And the only thing that you can possibly rely on is the fact that Volkan has been doing a lot of losing of late. Lost 3 of his last 4 and lost 5 of his last 8. 6 of his last 9, dating back to the Daniel Cormier fight. Now granted, these losing streaks, there's to Daniel Cormier, Anthony Smith, Dominic Reyes. Then the last 3 of 4 losses to Jiri Prochazka, Magomed Ankalaev, and Nikita Krylov, with a win July of 2022 against Paul Craig. Wins also since August of 2019, both 2 wins in 2019 overall against Harry Latifi, Arait, and Alexander Rakic by split decision. His last 2 wins are by decision in the UFC, and 4 of his last 5 fights have gone to the judges' scorecards. Look, you got to go Volkan here. There's nothing to tell me that Bogdan is capable of fighting at this level right now. He's never fought anybody close to the level that Volkan has been making his money against, even, losing. But, a win against Paul Craig right now, or at any time over the last few years, I think speaks volumes about what you can survive, where your skill sets are. I think that if you believe in Guskov at plus 160, you got to go all the way and go by TKO knockout. That's plus 225. But otherwise, Volkan wins this fight 80 to 85 times out of 100. Minus 192, I think, is a solid value. Volkan by TKO knockout is probably the most likely option there, and I think the best prop of the fight at minus 110. After that, I'd go Volkan by decision plus 550. Maybe he wades into this a little slower because Guskov hasn't fought at the UFC and Volkan's been, losing more often than not. But still, I think Volkan by TKO knockout. I think in this replacement fight, he'll be looking to make a statement. Minus 110, hit it. Ow! Next up, we got 3 fights remaining. Another Frenchman, Benoit Saint-Denis against Thiago Moises at lightweight. BSD is the minus 166 favorite. Thiago Moises, the plus 140 underdog. And in fact, I feel like this line has been crazy on the move, because I feel like BSD was actually the underdog to start the week. But let's start off then with Thiago Moises. This guy's fought a lot of people of high quality. He's fought Beneil Dariush, who beat him. He beat Kurt Holloway, the Ultimate Fighter winner. He lost to Demetrius Magalov. He beat Michael Johnson and Bobby Green and Alexander Hernandez 3 in a row. Then he ran into a buzzsaw known as Islam Makhachev. That guy's a champion. He got knocked out in the first round by Joe Alvarez, November of 2021. 2 wins in a row now against Christos Giagos and Guzael Costa, both by rear naked choke, the most recent being January of 2023. Benoit Saint-Denis, on the other hand, he has a 3-inch reach advantage. They were born in the same year, so that's pretty much the same thing. His nickname is the God of War. He wins on that quality for sure. He lost his UFC debut October of 2021 by decision to Eliezer Zaleski dos Santos, who outstruck at 149 to 67. BSD did land 2 takedowns, but then he's won 3 in a row. All inside the distance, 2 submissions, 1 knockout against Nicolas Stolze, Gabriel Miranda, and Ismael Bonfim. I think that's the most notable. This is kind of crazy. Like, look, I think that you do have to give an edge to BSD in the fact that this is going to be in France. He's on a winning streak, but so is Thiago Moises now. And Thiago Moises has had to fight a hell of a lot harder competition than BSD has had in this point in his UFC career. And I liked BSD when I thought he was, getting slept on and was going to be the underdog because Thiago Moises has been around the block, not, in a sporting term, much more. But now that it seems to have shifted so much, it's I think I got to go. I think this is like a 50-50 fight. I'm giving Denis some credit because this is going to be in France. Maybe BSD even takes 55 of these out of 100. Maybe even say, but Thiago Moises at plus 140, I think that's excellent value. Hit it. Ow! And I don't believe in picking a prop for this one for Moises. Because Moises, has won fights. I think it's more likely that he does win by decision. And if you're going with that, that's plus 330. And then you go Moises by submission, plus 450. I think that's accurate in terms of the probability of how that shakes out. But when I say Denis, though, if I'm betting a prop on him, and I think this is much better, I think you go Saint Denis inside the distance plus 140. I think that's probably the best prop value of the fight, and it matches up really well in the ratio of the probability that it actually happens. But for DFS purposes, I don't know how this is going to shake out. It's going to largely depend on the price, and I don't know how it's going to be set for either of the two. But I could definitely see both of these guys gracing my lineups in different variations. Next up, we got 2 fights remaining. We are already on to the co-main event of the evening. You guys know I love Thug Rose Namajunas. She's taking on Manon Furio, who you also know I have been a big fan of since she came into the UFC. She's taken a lot of people by storm. She's taken her division by storm. People were already talking about her getting a title shot very soon over a lot of people who have very good claims that they deserve it first. Manon Furio, the minus 205 favorite. Thug Rose, the plus 170 underdog. Dear God. Let's start with Manon. 5 fights in the UFC. 5 wins. Her first 2 were by second round TKO knockout. The next 3 were by decision. So the 2 knockouts came against Victoria Leonardo, Tabitha Ritchie. Pretty quality wins for your first 2 in the UFC. The last 3 were against Mayra Bueno Silva, who she outstruck 91-48 and landed 2 takedowns against. Jennifer Maia outstruck her 83-37. 2 takedowns to 1 for Furio. And then Caitlin Chukagian, she outstruck Caitlin 98-76 and got 1 takedown in that fight. Her last fight was October 22nd, 2022. I got married on that day. Shout out to Manon Furio. Thug Rose, actually 2 years younger. And they have the same reach. That's pretty surprising. Rose, last time we saw her was May of 2022. It was not a good fight against Carla Esparza. It was a split decision. She lost it. Carla has her number. It's inexplicable after she was coming off a 3-fight winning streak against Jessica Andrade in July 2020 by split decision. Then a first-round knockout over Zhang Weili to recapture the belt. And then a split decision over Zhang Weili in a fight that, I love Thug Rose. I can't reiterate it enough. She did not beat Zhang in that fight November of 2021. So the activity level has been low. And that Joanna fight, the second one, was already this long ago, April of 2018. And it's been a lot of split decisions for Thug Rose in that time. Dude, I would love to tell you that I think Thug Rose can win this fight. But she lost the strawweight belt. She got bested again by Carla Esparza. She's trying her luck up at featherweight, a bigger size. I don't think that that's going to suit her well. And Manon Furio, fighting in France, she has a whole lot more incentive to be able to come out on top in this fight than Thug Rose does. I don't think Thug Rose will be able to deal with the volume of Manon Furio. I think that Manon Furio will do damage to her on the feet. I don't know if Furio, if the numbers, remain true in this fight. She'll land at least 1 or 2 takedowns. I think that she comes on top by unanimous decision. And I think that even if Thug Rose manages to keep this close in her own Thug Rose way, I think that this is still a fight where Manon Furio is going to do the greater damage and come out with a split decision if it comes that close. It kills me to say it, but Thug Rose.
Don't do this. You cannot do this, you know?
The only reason I am keeping a shred of hope alive is that everything seems to be against Thug Rose, which historically she does very well in. She's fighting up a weight class against a hot young rising prospect in front of that prospect's home country. That's about as thug as it gets. That's Thug Rose for you. Manon Furio, I think she wins this fight 85 times out of 100. Maybe 75 to 85. Who knows? That's some Thug Rose magic. But minus 205, I don't hate that. I could definitely see using Furio in a lot of lineups. Maybe leaving her off some just because of that magic factor. But I don't like to get scared by magic. That's called superstition, and I don't believe in it. Furio, by decision. Because this is going to be 3 rounds. Plus 120, best prop of the fight. Hit it. Ow! If you're going Thug Rose, I think you got to go by decision too. Because 170 I don't think is enough of a reward there. I think if you're going Thug Rose, you go Thug Rose by decision. That's plus 330. I think that is the best prop in the co-main event for Thug Rose. And you know what? If Thug Rose decides to hang it up for whatever reason after that fight, we love you, and we love the moments you have given us and the moments that you have produced with the other greatest in the world in the strawweight division over these handful of years. Now we're to the main event of the evening. It is heavyweights in Paris, France. Eiffel Towers going against each other. Cyril Gane versus Sergey Spivak. Gane the minus 185 favorite. Spivak the plus 154 underdog. Again, these are the number 5 and the number 8 heavyweights in the world, respectively, according to Topology.com. Let's start with Cyril Gane. Gane, loser at 2 of his last 3. Hard to blame him, though, because those came to Francis Ngannou by unanimous decision. Got taken down 4 times by Francis. And then a first-round submission loss very early in dominant fashion to John Bones Jones. And oh my God, Nebraska's up 10-3 on Minnesota with 2.5 minutes left. When 2 of your 3 losses are to John Jones and Francis Ngannou, the wins you had leading up to that, for God's sake, JDS, Jairzinho Rozenstruik, Alexander Volkov, Derek Lewis, tied to Tuivasa, he outstruck 110-29 and we're out to a 3rd round knockout.
Break out the red panties.
Very impressive. But, the thing is, it's John Jones syndrome. It's playing the Alabama Crimson Tide syndrome. Preparing for a fight against a guy like John Jones, who seems like such an insurmountable task, who takes every ounce of physical and emotional effort that you have to prepare for and to fight. And for it to go that poorly, historically, it has a weird effect on people in the aftermath. Cyril Gane, born in 1990, 81 years old, 6'4". Sergey Spivak will be at a 2-inch reach disadvantage. He was born in 1995. He is 5 years younger. He is on a 3-fight winning streak. He has won 6 of his last 7 fights. So his 3 UFC losses. By first-round knockout in his debut, May of 2019, to Walt Harris. A unanimous decision loss to Marcin Tybura, February of 2020. And then in September, breaking up 2 3-fight winning streaks. A first-round knockout loss to Tom Aspinall, who since, his prospect train got derailed. But Sergey Spivak kind of caught up to him in that time that Tom Aspinall lost. It's very interesting. The first 3-fight winning streak he had. 2 decisions against Carlos Felipe and Alexei Oleinik, and a second-round knockout over Jared Vanderaa. 2 impressive names. 1 impressive name, 1 all right name, 1 not very impressive name in that stretch, but he has a win over Tai Tuivasa, for God's sake, by arm triangle, October of 2019. His most recent 3-fight winning streak started in March of 2020. His last win came in February of 2023 against the likes of Greg Hardy by first-round knockout, Augusto Sakai by second-round knockout, and Derek Lewis by first-round arm triangle. You might remember that someone on this very podcast, it being me, predicted specifically Sergey Spivak by arm triangle against Derek Lewis.
Break out the red panties.
You're welcome for that very specific call. I could have just said Spivak by submission. That'll help you betting-wise. But I was showing off that night. Oh, odds-wise. Again, Gone the minus 185 underdog. Spivak the plus 154 favorite. The thing is, the wins that Sergey Spivak has, especially these last three, impressive opponents. They've been very meaningful wins. He is one of the most meaningful rising prospects still in the heavyweight division. But those wins, a little bit gimmicky.
Don't do this. You cannot do this, you know?
It's just like Derek Lewis, Augusto Sakai, Greg Hardy. They're knockout artists. They're guys that swing. They're guys that want to bang and put on a show, but they're not like Cyril Gane. They're not gigantic, expert strikers and kickboxers that I think that Sergey Spivak is going to have a lot of problems with. Now, Cyril Gane did get taken down 4 times by Francis Ngannou. That is not to be ignored because Sergey Spivak was tossing Derek Lewis around like a grappling dummy when they fought. I think that makes this fight closer and way more believable to me. Excuse me, and not to mention the fact Cyril Gane is fighting in the main event once again in UFC Paris in front of his fellow Frenchmen, his home country. They're not waving the white flag on Saturday afternoon. So Gane makes just so much more sense to me as a win. And, I think over 5 rounds, I think that ultimately makes me think that, I don't even know if I believe in betting a prop, honestly. Gane was submitted by John Jones. That's really the only threat to do that, who he's fought. So I don't think I believe in a prop for Gane. I think Gane wins this fight 75 to 80 times out of 100. I like him at minus 185. I don't think that's bad at all. I think that both of these guys, depending on their prices, obviously, I could definitely see them gracing different DFS lineups for different strategies. Here's the thing. Spivak, if he was plus 200, I'd be all over it. Plus 154, it's just not enough. But Spivak by submission, plus 400, hit it. I just don't know if I believe in a prop for Cyril Gane. I mean, maybe you do. His last 2 wins were by knockout, and Spivak's just a little bit more, not rusted. He's not as dangerous on the feet, at least at this level. I split, obviously, my feelings on Gane's method of victory by TKO knockout minus 105 and Gane by decision plus 750. I guess, I think if you're going to take one of those, you go Gane by TKO knockout, especially this being a 5-round fight. But I think that even if he wins by TKO knockout, it probably doesn't go that far. This fight under 3.5 rounds, that's minus 225. Under 2.5 rounds, minus 150. I think there's some value in both of those. It's a very interesting main event. Honestly, I'm going to be rooting for Sergey Spivak because I think that's more exciting for the future of the heavyweight division. But that's it, folks. That's all 11 fights for UFC Paris. This has been episode 108 of RotoBallers' official MMA podcast. Tap that. Guys, we got several straight days of college football. It's the Labor Day weekend coming up. I wish there was more MMA on, but we just got 11 fights for the UFC Saturday afternoon. A lot of you are probably going to have to catch up on this on Sunday in between big football games between LSU and Florida State and the like. For some conversation on this card and for the DFS/sports betting Q&A, go to the RotoBaller MMA Discord. I will be there on Saturday morning talking UFC Paris for my picks on all other MMA events. LFA, Bellator, PFL, One, Ryzen, Invicta, big boxing matches, Cage Warriors, Cage Fury, and more. Follow me on Twitter at RotoBrady. Follow and give some love to the podcast. Like, subscribe, leave favorable reviews and nice words for us at Tap That MMA Podcast. That's the Facebook page, Spotify, and YouTube. I got interlude episodes coming out with student athletes from the Eastern Kentucky University Athletics Program. First one dropping on Monday. Very interesting, insightful conversation about the future of college sports and what some of those college sports that you might not be following right now are looking like in this extremely chaotic period. Folks, UFC Paris is going to be a good one. There's a lot of underrated fights on this card, a lot of prospects at work. Thanks for listening. Hell, we kept it under an hour.
Break out the red panties.
Again, have a great weekend. Enjoy Labor Day. Enjoy UFC Paris. Peace.